Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest installment of Mystery Unsolved. It's your boy, Justin Bienvenu, as always. Um, I'm feeling good. I'm in good spirits. Just had my second vaccine earlier today. So I said if I was good to go, that we're doing this, and here we are. So we're doing this. The latest episode tonight, the mysterious disappearance of musician Jim Sullivan. An episode, probably a topic not too many people are familiar with. I know I myself am not too familiar with it, and the only reason that I am is because I happen to come across, I believe, on Instagram or Facebook. Somebody posted it. I saw it. I thought it was one of the most mysterious and strangest things I've ever heard. So definitely wanted to look more into it and do an episode on it. So here we are. So without further ado, let us get into the mysterious disappearance of musician Jim Sullivan. First things first, who was Jim Sullivan? Sullivan was a singer and songwriter from San Diego, California. He was a tall man, and he played quarterback in high school. According to lyric notes on his first LP, he grew up in a government housing project. He and his friend bought a bar near their college, but it closed after losing money. And finally, he then moved with his wife and son to Los Angeles in 1968. So that's a little, you know, simple background on him. Seems like a simple man, you know. Career. While with his wife, while his wife worked at Capitol Records, he wrote songs and performed them in classy clubs all across Los Angeles. Nice gig to have. He became established at a club in Malibu where he became friends with Lee Majors, Lee Marvin, and Harry Dean Stanton. Pretty cool set of friends you got there, Mr. Sullivan. He was used as an extra in the movie Easy Rider starring Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper. Again, nice set of friends to have. With his friends backing him with funds, he was able to put out an album entitled UFO, which was released in 1969. All right, so I've given you a little background on who he is, or who he was rather, and I've given you a back on his career. The question you're probably wondering is, why are we here, Justin? Well, I'm going to get to that. And of course, after I get to that, I will also have, once again, it's back. I believe it will be three theories as to what happened to him, and we will go from there. So, continuing on from his career, the album UFO was a blend of folk rock and country. It was remixed in 1970 with a track called Rosie that failed to make any big impact. So in other words, they kind of probably threw that in as a new track, but unfortunately didn't pick up the way they were hoping. In 1972, he released his second album, Jim Sullivan, his name. This album, like the first, was also unsuccessful. So the first album, UFO, didn't take to people. Second one also floundered, so he's not really happy about where his music career is going. He turned to alcohol and his marriage began to disintegrate. In 1975, he decided to travel to Nashville, Tennessee, where Kathy Doran was working as a singer and songwriter, and he hoped to find success there. So he hears about the singer and songwriter. Apparently, she's somewhat successful. He knows her. So he's going to go across the country from Los Angeles to good old Nashville to meet up with her. But does he? Disappearance. Sullivan left for LA on March 4th, 1975, to drive to Nashville in his Volkswagen Beetle. The next day, a highway patrol officer cautioned him about his driving, so he checked into the La Mesa Motel in Santa Rosa, New Mexico. So he's going cross country. So California, California's over here, and he's wow, he's yeah, he's going down. He's going down He's at New Mexico, so then he's probably going to go up, and eventually he'll get to Tennessee. But does he? Reports suggest he did not sleep there and left his key inside the room, and that he bought vodka at the town store. So he's still drinking, apparently. He was then seen the following day about 26 miles away at a remote ranch owned by the Genetti family. His car was later found abandoned at the ranch, and he was reportedly last seen walking away from it. The car contained almost all of his belongings, such as money, papers, guitar, clothes, and a box of his unsold records. Little strange, don't you think? Leave all your belongings in your car and just take off walking. Where's he going? Why is he leaving it all behind? He was never seen again, and reports have variously attributed his disappearance to being murdered, becoming disoriented and lost, or particularly in light of the title of his first album, Alien Abduction. Search parties failed to find any trace of him. A decomposed body resembling Sullivan was later found in a remote area several miles away, but was determined not to be his. So it doesn't say this, but he was in a desert. He went to a ranch, and just off this ranch was a desert, and he walked into it, left his car behind on the ranch with all of his belongings, went into the desert, and he was never seen from ever again. Yeah, that's you want to talk about the definition of an unsolved mystery. This. So you may have heard the three theories in there of what happened to Jim Sullivan. Was he murdered? So here are the three theories. He was murdered, he became disoriented and lost, or he was abducted by aliens. Let's go with the first one. All right, he was murdered. Well, I mean, based off of what? There's no evidence, there's no body, there's no foul play, there's just his stuff in his Volkswagen Beetle that he left behind. There's no other people, there's no suspects, there's nothing at all to suggest that he was murdered. If it is, it's the greatest murder in the face of the earth. Because, like, and how do you determine that? Like, how do you determine, like, oh, maybe he was murdered? Well, there's no evidence to suggest this, so it's kind of just like, it's throwing something to the wall and hoping it sticks. Like, there's nothing there. Let's go to the second one, shall we? Became disoriented and lost. I mean, yeah, I mean, he left his stuff behind. He went into the desert. I'm assuming there's a good chance here that he became disoriented and lost. The better question here is, did that attribute to his disappearance? Highly likely. Perhaps he got so disoriented and lost that it became late at night. There's animals out there. He was just so far gone by that point that he just walked through the desert, died of thirst. An animal got him. Who knows? I mean, obviously, I think there's definitely a possibility that he became disoriented and lost. But now to the third one, the doozy, the big one, abducted by aliens. Now, had he not written an album called UFO, this theory probably wouldn't be on the list. But he did write an album called, so naturally, people have to think to themselves, well, what if he was abducted by aliens? What if this was his plan all along? Why am I whispering? I don't know. It's strange, but I think there might be a little bit more to it. So before I get to my big wide theory here, do I think he was abducted by aliens? I mean, I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to sit there and give you a definitive percentage on whether or not he was. I think it's to be considered. I think it's a possibility to be considered. Do I think he was murdered? No. No, I do not. I think he became disoriented and lost, so lost to the point that he couldn't find his way back. And perhaps he died of thirst. An animal got him and ate him. I don't know. But I think that's possible. And then, of course, abducted by aliens. Now, I haven't listened to the album. I, you bet your darn ass I'm gonna listen to it after this. My God, just to see if like maybe I can solve what happened to Jim Sullivan by listening to his album. Maybe that's it. This brings me to my fourth theory that I did not write down that I'm gonna just spill right here. I think that maybe he knew what he wanted to do with his life. I think that maybe he told himself or his friends and his wife, his estranged wife, I'm going to go to Nashville and make a name for myself. When in reality, he had no plans or intentions on doing that. I think he went to New Mexico because he knew that's where the UFOs and alien talk was. Like, it's kind of weird that he's in New Mexico and everybody knows that around that time, and even today, Roswell is in New Mexico. Maybe he knew this. Maybe Jim Sullivan wrote the album UFO, and maybe maybe the lyrics contain exactly maybe nobody has considered this. Listening to the whole album and figuring out that the lyrics are what he's going to do or what he wants to happen to him. Again, I haven't heard the songs, but maybe he's telling everybody like, in the event that I don't become a big star, maybe there's like little subliminal suggestions and hints in the album that suggest that he wants to get abducted by aliens, or he's just going to run away and get lost and escape it all, just disappear. Maybe he actually said this in his album. I don't know. I haven't listened to the album, but I'm going to say last little bit here, legacy. Sullivan's records, especially UFO, developed a cult following in later years, partly because of their rarity and obscurity. In 2010, Matt Sullivan, of no relation, the founder of Light in the Attic Records, decided to reissue UFO and made serious attempts to uncover the mystery of Sullivan's disappearance, interviewing many of those who knew him and those involved in his recordings, but revealing little new information. Okay, so it sounds like this guy kind of sort of did what I was suggesting. Like maybe he listened to it, but he was kind of more on the side of, trying to talk to people that are still alive that knew him to see if he could piece anything together that would be substantial enough to think, gee, why did this guy just disappear off the face of the earth? Because that's kind of what he did. The album was issued on a CD in 2011. A new collection of previously unreleased demos by Sullivan, If the Evening Were Dawn, was released in 2019 by Light in the Attic Records. So they actually released a third album posthumously on his behalf. Kind of cool. So, I don't know. This guy seems like he was an up and coming musician, but from what you may remember me saying previously in the beginning, his first album, UFO, didn't go as he planned. Second album, his own name, title, didn't go as planned. And he started taking the alcohol. And by then, he was just probably like, he was like, you know what, maybe I have all these cool movie star friends, but maybe music's just not in it for me. Maybe, maybe I need to go out and find myself. Hence the reason he takes a cross country trip. Hence the reason he ends up in New Mexico. And maybe he's just driving and he hits New Mexico and he's like, you know what? I wrote an album called UFO. Maybe I'll just stop here and see if I myself can find aliens or UFOs. Maybe I mean, he had to be a big UFO nut, right? Like, why would you title your album that? Because it just doesn't make sense for a man to just stop in New Mexico, leave all of his belongings in his car, and just go off into the desert and never be heard from ever again. That's just weird. That is bizarre. It's weird. Like, go to the thesaurus and find another word for weird or bizarre because it's every single one of them. What do I think truly happened to Jim Sullivan? I think I think he planned on going to New Mexico. I don't think that was just a stop. I think he probably wanted to find himself, and in doing so, became disoriented and lost, and adventured into the desert, and somewhere, maybe an animal took him, or maybe he was abducted by aliens. I know one thing: it's definitely a mystery unsolved to this day. And also, I'm going to listen to UFO and his pretty much all of his music. I mean, there's only three albums there, so I mean, see if it's any good and see if there's anything worth tipping somebody off to, like, what happened to him. This has been Mystery Unsolved. I hope you all enjoy the episode on the playback. To the one person watching this, thank you very much. Much appreciated. For those watching this on YouTube on the playback, you know how YouTube works. If you could give this video a like, even subscribe to the channel so you can get more Mystery Unsolved and anything else I might happen to post on my channel. And next week on Mystery Unsolved is I don't remember. My tablet's over there. I don't feel like getting up, so you'll just have to wait and see. However, I did bring one thing before I give this a close because, yeah. Funny story before I show you. Mystery Unsolved. I had my own Mystery Unsolved last week. I ordered a proof copy of my book. It was supposed to be here Thursday. Thursday night came, 8:46. I opened the email. There's a picture in the email of my book on someone else's porch. I was pretty mad. The next day, I got out of work. I ordered another copy. It got here Tuesday. And Thursday, yesterday, the original copy that I ordered came in the mail. And now I have not one, but two copies of the Wax Menagerie. Wow, it's so weird to. I have now two copies of my book. Hey, whatever. Good promotional tactics, I guess. But yeah, this has been the latest episode of Mystery Unsolved. Until next week.